Hello there. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Eric McKay, and this is News Channel Nebraska. Let's take a look at our top headlines today. Cleanup continuing after an explosion in Wood River over the weekend. New details beginning to emerge as well. Ana Ruth Lugo Mejia has the latest.
Cleanup crews are still at the scene of a violent explosion that destroyed a home, claimed a life, and put a small Nebraska town on edge over the weekend.
I was just getting ready to enjoy a soda pop and let some light into the living room. I had no idea I'd be spending the day cleaning up busted glass.
Like James DeBrow, many in Wood River could not have imagined what would unfold Saturday morning. Major Craig Kramer lives just a few blocks away. He heard the explosion and thought it was the ethanol plant.
I was watching TV, just putting my shoes on, about ready to go out of the house, and it went off. It knocked some pictures off my walls at the house.
Kramer declared a local state of emergency for the city. Since then, he says the community has unified.
You know, we had our flood in 2019 and, some other flood events over the years, and everybody rallies together. I mean, people run to the scene and, they want to help.
50-year-old Craig Stinser-Bofe owned the house. Court documents in a pending domestic abuse protection order matter say the case is dismissed because Stinser-Bofe has died. Investigators say they found a body in the house, but they haven't identified the person yet. They suspect the person who died of tampering with the natural gas system. Very little remains of the two-story home near downtown. The house next door suffered fire damage. Several surrounding houses, businesses, and structures suffer varying degrees of damage. At the moment, crews are still trying to gather the loose debris and waiting for the homeowner's insurance company.
If you have damage, call your insurance company, call the city hall or come to the city hall, make a list of what's wrong with your house. I don't care if it's a broken window or a crack in your wall. The more information we have, the better it looks to get some type of assistance.
I praise the Lord, I have good friends at the Presbyterian Church. They got a crew together, brought down lumber and boarded up the windows for me. 7
families were displaced due to the explosion. Donations are being accepted to the Wood River Ministerial Association at Heritage Bank. In Wood River, Ana Ruth Lugo Mejia, News Channel, Nebraska.
This past weekend's explosion having a wide-ranging impact. Destiny and Sam Rodemaker say their home nearby sustained so much damage it's now unlivable. Destiny telling our partners at KSNB News that she thought initially it was her home that had exploded. She says the blast trapped her and her family inside.
A sheriff ended up coming up to my door and he was saying, "You guys have to get out of the house. You have to get out of the house." And I was trying to tell him, "I can't open the door." And he said, "I can't hear you." Because I guess he was close to the explosion, so his ears were ringing. He couldn't hear me. He eventually figured out that I couldn't open the door, so he started pulling on the door and I was kicking it.
The family had just moved into the home this past January. Sam Rodemaker had just returned home 3 weeks ago after a stint with the U.S. Marine Corps. A family friend has set up a GoFundMe to help the Rodemakers with their ongoing expenses. In other news, accusations of genocide by Israel front and center during a town hall Monday night held by Congressman Mike Flood. Also on the table, border security and former President Donald Trump. Joe Jordan has our report.
Republican Congressman Mike Flood's moderately attended Bellevue Town Hall found him backing former President Donald Trump, especially on the crisis at the border.
The border is wide open, and we need a president that's going to negotiate with the Mexican president, like President Trump did, to say, "You can come here, but you're not getting in. You're going to remain in Mexico."
That just hours after the Supreme Court ruled unanimously 9-0 that states cannot take Trump off the ballot, even amid charges that he oversaw these January 6 scenes at the Capitol. The ruling, a big win for Trump, as Trump now waits for the High Court to rule on his demand for immunity.
Should the President of the United States have immunity? Well, the President always has immunity in certain executive actions.
And I feel that as a president, you have to have immunity. Very simple.
Remember, we're talking about somebody here who hadn't been convicted of a crime.
But it appears what President Trump's concern is that if some of these things he's indicted for, if he's convicted of, if he had immunity, they'd go away.
We don't have a king in this country. Do I think that presidents should have carte blanche immunity? No.
In this election year, Flood faces minor primary opposition. He's up against Michael Connolly, an admitted longest of long shots. In the November election, Flood will likely be facing Democrat Carol Blood, a two-term, term-limited state senator. Clearly an uphill fight for Blood, as the 1st Congressional District, 11 counties, finds Republicans outnumbering Democrats nearly 2-1. Still, Blood campaigns that our Congress is in complete disarray, and our Congressman Mike Flood has forgotten his nonpartisan roots and ability to work with the other side. Back at the town hall, Flood was praising Israel as this man cried genocide.
My question is, when are you going to stop working to put a stop to that?
What happened in Israel happened in the United States. The Israelis would stand behind us as we rooted out the evil terrorists that did that on October 7th. And so
30,000 women and children have been murdered by the Israelis. That is not a good ally.
You and I disagree on this point.
This was Flood's third traditional face-to-face town hall. No word yet as to when he'll hold a fourth. In Bellevue, Joe Jordan, News Channel, Nebraska.
The U.S. Supreme Court has temporarily frozen enforcement of Texas's controversial immigration law until at least next week. The decision yesterday comes after the Biden administration filed an emergency application with the High Court earlier in the day to try to block the law from taking effect. Texas Senate Bill 4 signed into law in December by Governor Greg Abbott. It allows for state law enforcement to arrest and detain people they suspect of entering the country illegally. The Supreme Court's temporary pause will hold until March 13th instead of the law going into effect on the 10th. That break gives the court additional time to review the case. Last week, a federal judge in Texas blocked the state from implementing the law in his ruling. He wrote that allowing the Texas measure to take effect could open the gates for other states to pass their own versions of immigration law. Immigration, the subject of a hearing of U.S. Senator Pete Ricketts as he visits Norfolk on Monday. Andrew Pfeiffer was there and has more.
Andrew Pfeiffer reporting in downtown Norfolk, just outside the District Event Center, where former Governor and Senator Pete Ricketts just held a hearing with the citizens of Norfolk about the migration crisis on the southern border. U.S. Senator Pete Ricketts visited the town of Norfolk on Monday as one of his many stops of his border briefing. He wants to make Nebraskans aware of its impact on the state.
I was doing my border briefing today in Norfolk, really to raise awareness about this most pressing national security issue we have at our southern border. That in the 3 years Joe Biden's been president, nearly 9 million people have either entered this country illegally or tried to enter this country illegally.
In what was a 30-minute presentation that was followed by questions from the public, Ricketts capitalized on the border issue and what he believes the White House isn't doing about it.
We've got a huge national security and humanitarian crisis. People need to know that Joe Biden can fix it. He's got the same tools Trump had, but he's choosing not to do it.
Ricketts also took the time to address the specific impacts that he believes originate from the border policies and how it can affect Nebraskans.
Catastrophe at our southern border is making every state a border state. We see the drugs here in Nebraska. Fentanyl is the leading killer of young Americans aged 18 to 45, and it's killing Nebraskans. We see the human trafficking that's going on. We're impacted by the folks who are coming here, the kids that don't speak English. All that is impacting our communities just like it's impacting every state.
Ricketts will continue on the road to spread more of his findings, having visited the U.S.-Mexico border multiple times. As far as Ricketts' plan goes, it is to make sure everyone around the state of Nebraska is aware how they can be affected by the changes in the southern border. Reporting in Norfolk, Andrew Pfeiffer, News Channel, Nebraska.
A church in western Nebraska helping those who've been impacted by the historic wildfires in Texas. A group from Hershey Baptist Church is collecting a variety of donations before heading to Texas to aid those impacted. They say they're looking for donations of cattle and horse feed, bandages, milk replacer and calf bottles, along with feed buckets, fencing and hay bales. Anyone who has any donations can drop them off at the Hershey Baptist Church on Sunset Avenue. A project that could bring 130 new housing units in northeast Nebraska saw an important step taken Monday. Ryan Pattee has more.
A project to bring new housing to Norfolk saw two pieces fall into place for the project to move closer towards being approved. The project would be a $32 million investment from Mark Auto and Mudd LLC, who is looking to add 130 affordable housing units and retail areas on 105 East Norfolk Avenue. The project is looking to connect Norfolk's Johnson Park with a downtown area as a pedestrian mall and unique living space in Nebraska. However, in order for the project to develop, two things needed to happen: the opportunity for a workforce housing incentive plan to use tax increment financing, and for the area to be declared as extremely blighted. Both were approved Monday by the Norfolk City Council. While these pieces have fallen into place, the project still needs to overcome some other hurdles before it can be completely approved. The city has also not yet approved TIF financing for the project. There's more details about the plan, so be sure to keep watching News Channel Nebraska as we share more information with you as we learn it. Reporting from Norfolk, Ryan Pattee, News Channel Nebraska.
And after weeks of discussion, a southeast Nebraska community finally has a new fireworks ordinance. On a 6-1 vote yesterday, the Beatrice City Council approved a 6-day sales and use period around the 4th of July holiday. The vote came in after a last-minute attempt to reduce that to 5 days failed, 5-2. Councilman Dwayne Rue then pitched the alternative.
I don't think it should have been changed in the first place because it was going fine since 1989. And so I would like to see this. I've had people still ask me to move the 1st through the 4th. I said, I know that won't pass. I'm hoping, that I can get some support for the 30th through the 4th.
This is a compromise, and we voted on it twice and affirmed it, and I would hope that we could do the same thing the third time. You can probably find 100 people with your idea, 10 the same way, and all of us in between. So this is a compromise vote on the ordinance, and I would encourage everyone to vote like we did before.
Last night was the third and final reading for the new fireworks ordinance. It sets June 29th through July 4th as the period for sales and use, carries a curfew of 10 p.m. from the 29th through the 2nd and midnight on the 3rd and 4th. You can stay up to date with the very latest by following us online. Head to newschannelnebraska.com, click on the news tab there. You can also follow us on X, like us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day. You're watching News Channel Nebraska.